Hi, my name is Carlo Volpe,
And I'm Desmond Silva,
and
and
welcome to
welcome to
Centerville
Centerville
Voice.
Voice.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Centerville Voice. My name is Carlo, and my good friend Desmond. How are you, Des?
Okay, but you, Carlo?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Des. Everybody, welcome back to Centerville Voice. This is episode number 23. And thanks for your likes, thanks for your shares, thanks for subscribing. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and please share the word. Thank you. Des, we're going to get into something a little different today, right? Comic books. I know you're a big fan of comic books, so you're probably going to take the lead here, but we want to get into basically I guess two main things, but comparison of comic books, in the past and today, in the light, I guess, where it talks about political stuff and how it's being used right now. So I'll hand it off to you for that part.
Yeah, so
Um,
historically, like characters like Superman, Batman, Robin, these characters in the past in comic books have been used to promote certain ideals. Whether you're talking about Superman in his early days, or during the Great Protect, when he was created during the Great Depression, and how he was about fighting for the innocent and making sure that justice was served properly, so that, and also giving hope to people during a time where there was very little hope. I mean, they called it Great Depression for a reason, right?
exactly. And again, just to point out, his motto is basically truth, justice, and the American way, right?
Exactly. So it was
Okay.
all about trying to boost American morale back in a time when it was failing, and so that's why they had truth, justice, and the American way.
Okay.
So and that's what made him, and then that's why they made him into further and further and further into this character that was like could do anything, right?
Mhm.
Almost anything, right?
Yeah. The real hero that
um
America needed,
yeah,
right?
exactly, anything that America needed him to be.
Hmm.
And if you even look at World War II, right, they had the propaganda against the Nazis and the Japanese
Okay.
during at that time as well, right? And even Mussolini to some extent, but not as much as the Nazis and Japanese, right?
Okay.
The Germans and the Japanese. So they would always have this, have a lot of this stuff. Now, some of this stuff sounded a bit much like a bit of a jerk scenario back then. If you look at it now, because these days, if you had to take it within context, this was during World
Yeah.
War II. Imperial Japan is not the same as what it is today, right?
Yes.
So it's but this the old saying, but what was happening there is that the comic books would really literally say, Superman says slap a Jap.
There you go.
It's,
Well, I mean, at that time, like I said, not that it's right now, but at the
no,
time, they were the enemies, right?
they were the conquerors. That's
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
At
Not just
that
the
time,
enemies,
the
you're right. The
Japanese,
conqueror.
the Nazi Germany, and fascist Italy
Hmm.
under Mussolini were trying to take over the world. They were trying to conquer the world. Japan was trying to take over all its neighbors.
Hmm.
And then Germany was trying to take over its neighbors, and while Italy was trying to take over Africa.
Yeah.
So, and it was this huge, it was a huge war that still has yet to be surpassed in casualties and the amount of deaths and injuries, and
Yeah.
the scale of it was just crazy. You don't get
Yeah.
that anymore, thank God, right?
Yes. Thank God.
um
Um, so,
but
so now is it safe to say it's being used again now?
yes, it's
And
used
how so? Because
again.
now it's different. This is not the
Now
kind of
it
Superman
is
that we grew up
different.
with.
Now it happened. What happened is when the New 52. Now, for those of you who don't know too much about comics, now I'm not an avid comic book reader ever since I was in my up until my I was an avid comic book reader up until I was in my 20s, and then after that you go back to it for the nostalgia factor, right?
Yeah,
So every
exactly.
now and then, like every few years or so, I go back and like, oh hey, let me take a look what's going on in this thing, right?
What's new and stuff. And I didn't realize that comics, they evolved and the stories kept on going on. So I'm glad
Oh
that you
yeah.
brought me up to speed. And yeah, so
Yeah,
what's
exactly.
going
So,
on with
like
that?
for instance, like now we have so the New 52 Superman died. They
Okay.
brought back the old classic Superman from the 90s and 80s, right?
Okay.
Well, old classic, like when I mean relatively old classic. We're not talking about like the original rendition of Superman that when he was first created, right? Or
Okay.
rather the one from this like Christopher Reeves type Superman, right?
Yeah.
So they brought him back, and but the thing in that case, before the new Superman, the new 52 Superman died, his character went through some trials and tribulation with gentrification. I think it was gentrification, fighting against authorities that were trying to put down the poor, and that was along the time. I think this was along the time of when Obama was on office and BLM was coming up, right?
Okay.
Black Lives Matter was coming up, so that was going along with that. Now they what they had the old Superman came back. After he came back, of course, he had been married to Lois Lane.
Okay.
They both had a son who they named after Superman's or Clark Kent's adopted father, Jonathan Kent.
Jonathan, okay.
So they named their son Jonathan Kent as after his grandfather. He also ended up having his father's powers and abilities, and they what was it? They just so then they ended up living a normal life for a long time. Eventually, Clark Kent, Superman, left.
Okay.
And he left off with Lois Lane to go off to some planet or something like that to do other stuff. And there's also certain renditions where Superman's trying to make his own team as his powers start to wane as he ages.
Okay.
And Jonathan has taken out the mantle of his father. Great.
So he's the new Superman now.
So he's the new Superman, and the new series that they have is Superman, son of Kal-El. That's what it's called. Superman, son of Kal-El.
Okay.
Instead of Man of Steel, Superman called son of Kal-El.
Wow.
And then they have, but now they have the whole wokeness, the woke.
Yeah. Thing. So what's his motto now? If it's not truth, justice, and the American way,
no, it's truth, justice, and a better world. And the artist that had been painting Superman for years, was really pissed off when they dropped the American way, because of the fact that he understood what the many soldiers and veterans during World War II sacrificed in order to keep the American way. It was the American way that kept us from having Nazis, that they're taking over the entire world. From imperialism, if Japan took over, there would have been imperialism that would have taken all over the world. We would not be having a prime minister here in Canada. We would not have a president down in the United States. You would have the emperor of Japan sitting on his throne giving commands. That's
we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
We wouldn't be having this conversation. No, it would be a monarchy, an imperial monarchy that would be ruling us. If Japan had taken over, if it was the Nazis that took over on our side, while the Japan stayed back where it was, we would have had a dictatorship, right? There would have been a dictatorship under the German chancellor, right? If it was under Mussolini, if the Italians had taken over, right, then with Mussolini, we would have another dictatorship which was very, very fascist. Before anyone goes on telling me that fascism is right wing, well, guess what? The Nazis were very socialist, and so was Mussolini. So the fact that there was no such thing as the fascism being just right wing, it can be both ways, right? It can go both ways. So so that's what this artist was pissed off at. Because there's so many people who've completely forgotten what it is. They're so disconnected.
Now, to be devil's advocate, the idea alone, or just the wording alone, truth, justice, and a better world, that sounds great, right? It does sound great. But does that play into this whole globalist idea? Because we've been hearing now that as it unfolds, maybe it's not a good idea that everybody in the world talks about everything, you know what I mean, all the time, and that all governments are communicating. Maybe that's not great, I think. And is that what you're basically saying?
Yeah, well, there's a reason why we have borders and people, and there's a lot of naive young folks who go around saying, oh, all you people all these border lines and all that were created by idiots. No, they were not idiots. They did that in order to protect themselves and their way of life. If you go to every single country around the world, regardless of what your skin color is, you're going to see different languages, different religions, different cultures, different ways of thinking, right? If you go to Sri Lanka, for instance, and say, we should allow kissing on public television, they'd be pissed off with you a lot.
Yeah.
They would not do that. As a matter of fact, a lot of Disney movies for children that are shown on public television in Sri Lanka, they cut out the kissing scenes.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's culturally acceptable or not acceptable, right? That's it.
Exactly. So that's why you have these borders. That's why you have these.
Well, exactly. And if anybody who has the freedom and the luxury to say something like, why are there borders, have to remember that the reason why they're here is because their country was protected.
Exactly.
Right. Or their town was protected, or their, whatever. So yeah, I think oftentimes young people, especially young people, right? Because you don't know anything when you're young, and it's not shitting on them, but young people oftentimes get duped into this idea that, well, I'm peaceful, so everybody else is peaceful, right?
Yeah, that's what they think, but it's not.
That's not the way it works.
It's a naive idealism. That's what it is.
Or I'm honest, so everybody else is honest. Naive.
It's nice,
exactly.
but it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And it works in your family, or works around people you trust.
Yes.
But once you go outside of that, then you have to have protective measures, right?
Exactly.
Like common sense protective measures. Yeah.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be. Otherwise, if everyone was so nice, we wouldn't have criminals. We wouldn't have thieves. We wouldn't have all these other people who, like the people who, like, I still remember the anarchists who came to Toronto back in they had the G7 summit in Toronto years ago, and they just wrecked downtown Toronto. They were from out of town, right? They're from out of town. They didn't care about the city, right? So that's why you need police. That's why we need an army. That's why, or military, to keep ourselves protected. That's why we need border patrols. That's why we need all these things.
Exactly. And it's to me, it's just another example of how, when things are going really well for a long time, young people, especially, who grow up in a really easygoing, right? We're a very fortunate society, right? Well, then that's why they oftentimes think, why do we need money? Why do we need military? It's safe here. Well, yeah, it's safe here because we have a military, and we've had one for a long time, right? We've kept the enemies away. And and it's just the same as like social health care and everything else. Like, well, why is private property important? Well, if you ever acquire private property, you'll realize why it's important, because you've acquired it, you've worked hard for it, and it's for your family or whatever it is, right? So I totally get the idea that when you're young and you don't have anything, but you're still healthy and you're very fortunate, I think that's why a lot of these left ideas come from, right?
The vast majority of these left ideas are coming from young folks who have a very, very comfortable lives. They're not coming from poor families who have it tough, who have gone through hard work, who have to do all that stuff. It's mostly coming from more upper middle class families. Then the thing is, if they're
completely in this system, there's the other spectrum too. If you're on welfare for generation over generation, that can impact.
That can also be a thing. That could affect you too if you're on welfare for a long time. But if you're an immigrant family who doesn't get welfare, well, you're not likely to do that. That's why immigrants don't mess around, and they actually do work, and they'll go for minimum wage. Even some will even work under the table if you're cash, if it means that they can get an opportunity to work and earn a living, right? And to support their family. So that's why immigrant families would be like that.
Let's get back to the whole woke thing with the Superman and everything. So with the more than just the model changing, right? So truth, justice, and a better world. They have introduced their more woke politics, or the more contemporary politics, I guess, and even just social issues. So, for example, Clark Kent's son, and I was surprised when you told me this, but Clark Kent's son is now bisexual.
He's bisexual, and
it's not. Is it not innuendo?
Batman's son, Damian Wayne, who is the current day Robin.
Now I have to ask you now: is it open that he's bisexual, or is it kind of like insinuated?
It's open that they're bisexual.
Wow.
Okay. Now, here's the thing: there are already LGBTQ characters that are in the comics.
I imagine there would be.
And so they had Batwoman. She was like that. Silver Banshee. I think she's also a lesbian. Both her and Batwoman are lesbians.
Silver Banshee. I don't know that character. That sounds cool.
Silver Banshee. Yeah, she's actually a villain. She's a villain. Okay. You have Hal Jordan, Green Lantern. He turned gay.
He did.
Yeah, he came out as gay.
Wow.
Despite the fact that he was straight for decades, right? And he has a
Hey,
love interest. Yeah,
you
so
can't question
that's
anything because you're a bigot if you question anything.
yeah, I know. It's kind of odd that all of a sudden he's gay, right?
Well,
So
on one hand, I see humor in it because they're all characters anyway, right? But
yeah, it's all fictional characters.
to the purist, or not purist, I guess, to the person who's been following comic books, and if you are a comic book fan, this is probably playing to your next point. Um, are they losing customers, or are they
They are
getting a
losing
new
customers, but
audience?
here's the thing though, okay? The reason why that the moment that they make Robin and Superman, the new Robin and the new Superman, the bisexual part of the
Bisexual.
LGBT,
Yeah.
that kind of puts my antenna up because
Well, that's
now it's
political too in a
officially
different way.
propaganda.
Yeah.
Because those two characters have historically been used for propaganda,
Yeah.
right? Those two.
Well, the heroes, right? And not that it's not that you can't be a gay hero, of course, right? But
No,
everything that goes with that hero is going to be things that people look at, whatever, as the hero. And even when I'm saying that, I'm still feel a little bit like, well, I want to say, I'm not trying to say that you can't be gay or you shouldn't be gay or anything like that.
no.
But I think that why was it addressed at all? Right? It wasn't straight Superman, but it's now by his son's bisexual. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but that, I don't know. But he has a
Well,
boyfriend, you're saying, or a
the
partner?
issues also this is that
And again, I'm not against it, so
for
I hate that.
years have been saying, okay, the Pride Parade is not propaganda. The things that they're putting out in TV shows is not propaganda. They have, like, for instance, they have Blue's Clues. I told you, Blue's Clues has this thing, which is pretty obviously propaganda. Like,
Is it? Okay.
well, in a way, because the thing is, you've got this fist coming up with that there is a drag queen with a microphone with a fist on it like this. Most
Oh,
of
I
the time
didn't
when you
notice
see
that.
this type of system like this, that's activism,
Yeah.
right? And
Okay.
that's also about, it's all about propaganda for normalizing a particular behavior.
Yeah.
Not only that, now it's about making that type of behavior seem like the in thing,
Yeah.
right?
So that's the thing
And
that's the fine line, I think. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's the fine line that really does turn it from education and information to propaganda because it's like it's cool. So if it's going to be cool, or if it's hip, even subconsciously, kids are going to think that's cool or hip. Hey,
yeah,
I was a kid. I was super influential about everything, sports figures, everything, right? Music. I dressed like LL Cool J. I rode one leg up. I thought, I was the whitest kid on the block, but it doesn't matter, right? But to my point, like you kind of emulate your heroes,
oh
right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was the same thing. I used to listen to MC Hammer
Yeah,
and freaking LL Cool J as well. I
yeah,
had the
like
hoodie, I had the high tops, the
yeah,
everything, right? The baggy pants, the freaking
yeah,
basketball jacket, shirts, and everything. So I dressed like an Afro kid. If I put a there was one time I put a bandana on and I had those some glasses on, like the
yeah,
hard glasses. I looked like an Afro,
yeah.
right? I look like I was Afro. You couldn't tell.
Especially
Especially
in
I was back
Sault
then.
especially in Sault
Summertime, I
Ste.
was going to
Marie.
work, right?
Sault Ste. Marie, everybody not going to know where you're from anyway.
Well, no, I was in TO. I was back. That was when I was
Oh, back in
Toronto,
Toronto. Okay,
back
yeah,
in
yeah.
Toronto, and I was
You were
so
younger.
dark, right? There's one. I took the picture. I was standing next to my sister. I
Okay.
was so dark. I looked like I literally without my glasses on
Yeah,
and with that bandana because I had a bandana, so my hair was covered,
yeah.
and I looked like an Afro dude.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
I look like almost like an Afro dude. So I'm like more like West Indies,
Yeah.
right?
Either way, but yeah, I get
But
it.
yeah, but it's still they
Yeah.
so
But
this
you're
was
right. It's like so and then but are we like is it bad to say that what you see on TV, what you see in comics, what you hear is going to influence your life? That's just
of
common
course it's
sense.
going to be what you emulate as a young person.
So then now what's the argument against it? Because to be devil's advocate, someone's going to say, well, what's wrong with having a character that's bisexual?
Well, here's the problem. Well, do you want to have your children? Do you want to have a completely straight child? And here's the thing, whether you like it or not,
Yeah.
homosexual relations among men is unhealthy, specifically sodomy. Sodomy is also unhealthy amongst heterosexuals as well. Okay, so point be made. If you look at, as I said this before, if you look at the demographic that is most likely to catch STDs, it's homosexual men. If you look at the demographic at which they promote medications and medical procedures to fight against certain particular STDs, including HIV/AIDS, it's the demographic that they target. It's always men. You see these commercials on the television. You don't see a single woman.
Yeah.
They're all guys, and they're guys. It's like a pair of guys together.
Yeah.
Obviously gay, right?
Yeah.
Holding hands and looking in each other's eyes like romantically. Obviously is gay. So it's that they're targeting this demographic because they're the ones who buy it, because they're the ones who are affected by it. Do you really?
So I guess what you're saying is that they wouldn't be lying. Like if they weren't using real data, it wouldn't be effective. So they must be using data.
They are using real data, because where do you think the marketers?
Why would they be?
Businesses get their target demographic?
Yeah, they're not dumb.
Yeah, they're not dumb. Every single business always does the marketing studies to find out what their appropriate demographic is. The number one reason why comics are failing these days is because the number one demographic for comic books with superheroes is young boys, is men.
And I can imagine that, because when I was a young boy, if the comic book readers were young boys.
Yeah, my sister didn't care about comics, but she loved My Little Pony.
So what's happening now? Because is there any data to show that this is impacting sales?
Well, the thing is that here's the thing: is that the biggest problem is that now they're doing it in a way where, guess what? This character is gay, or this character is, a minority. This character is a woman, so that they're not cisgendered straight white male. Yeah. So that automatically makes them great. Yeah. There's no character development. There's no character build up, right?
So because they made it so politicized, and it's such a hot topic in society. Your orientation and your sexual preference, that's all that matters now, right?
That's the problem.
Yeah. So whether you like men or women, what color you are, and what how you identify today or this week, that's the most important thing. And where's the character? Where's the morals? Where's the truth, justice in the American way? Where is that now?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's gone out the window. The character, also there are overweight characters, right?
Yeah.
And
you never were seen that before. Yeah.
All these groups that are essentially like very, very small minority of people, other than the female upper ones, right? Other than the female characters, all these other groups are straight minority. Like they're
small minority.
Small, not the small minority groups, but they're overrepresented now.
Yes.
Overrepresented. Now, here's the thing.
Yeah.
15% of the world's population is disabled.
15%
of the world's population is disabled.
Okay.
Less than 10% of the world's population is LGBTQ overall.
Wow.
And yet there's more representation of the LGBT community than there is of the disabled community.
Yeah. Well, it's
not realistic.
It's not realistic, but it's almost proof to me that it's all about hype and what's hip and what's cool and what's trendy. Exactly. You can make money off of, right? Hollywood. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, traditionally, and disabled people, I don't know, what's the flair? You have to make a flair, right? How could you? I don't know.
The thing is, disabled people, they're talking about victimhood and all that stuff. Disabled folks have been
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Have been discriminated against for
original victims.
They still are.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
know of one lady who has started a charity for disabled folks who are homeless. These folks can't get a job. They're either physically or mentally disabled.
Yeah,
can't get a job. And you talk about these homosexual folks who their parents reject them and all that stuff.
Yeah,
these kids are disabled, mentally disabled. They're kicked out of the home.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens.
Families are taking their ODS, the Ontario Disability Supports money, and they're using it while that person who was intended for it doesn't get anything.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. But I know for a fact, myself, I have a physical disability.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I applied for a job, and I was just in training. The thing is that when they didn't know I had a disability, they were fine with me. And the majority of people were fine with it, except for one guy. Okay. This one guy, and he was the head of, he was the HR director, human rights director. He was the HR director. Before anyone tells me that this guy was some racist white guy, no, he wasn't. The guy was Afro, so this had nothing to do with him being a racist or a racist white guy, whatever the case is. He didn't like the fact that I was disabled. He didn't like my disability because I have spina bifida and a few other conditions that make it difficult for me to stay in a chair for long periods of time at a fixed time and go according to certain breaks, right? That if it's fixed to a clock. It's just that my bodily functions don't let me do that. So it's very difficult for me to do that. So so the thing is that there's about 15% of the world's population is disabled, right?
Yeah.
And only 10%, less than 10% is LGBTQ, but you've got far more representation, over-representation now of the LGBT community than you have disabled folks. Even though disabled
honestly,
folks,
if there was somebody, if there's someone outside looking in, if there's someone outside looking into the way our society, at least the Canadian American media, is looking at or is taking LGBTQ society or community, it makes it look like 90% of the people are gay.
Yeah.
Like, it's seriously, I mean, I know that's obviously, but at least it makes it look like half the people are gay. And I know it's not even close to half.
No, it's not.
Not even close to half. So, and everybody's pretty, I don't want to say everybody's quiet about it because I can't speak for everybody, right? I'm pretty quiet about it because it doesn't bother me at all. But over time, I have to say, I'm starting to get this message of, why do I need a daily message? I'm questioning that. I go, why do I need the daily message? I don't get daily message of all these other great virtues, right? And good things, not that being gay is bad, but why don't we get those daily messages, right? Yeah. Why isn't there a community out there with another flag, not a rainbow flag, that's just about truth and justice and marching on the streets that demands truth and justice for disabled people? Perfect example.
Yes, because disabled folks right now are they're still being discriminated against, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, there's before there was
discriminated forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, there's this one lady that I know who has a charity who she takes her charity is to take care of disabled people, physically and mentally disabled folks who have been thrown out on the street by their parents. So you think about homosexual folks that say, oh, when I came out of my being gay, that my family denied me or disowned me. Well, these people are thrown out. Not only that, everything that they have is taken from them, and it's very hard for them. And because remember that some of them are mentally disabled folks that can't really that really do need equity for obvious reasons. If you're gay, you don't need equity. You just need equality, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, in equal opportunity. But
yes, exactly.
There are people who are getting fired from their jobs, kicked out from their homes because they're disabled. I know, because I have a disability, and there was a job that from one company that I worked for, pretty big name. I'm not going to say what it is, but for confidential reasons. But I was training for that. I was into about 2 or 3 weeks of training. I had passed the interviews and all that stuff, and I was the top of the class. I was doing very well. When I got into it, everyone was saying, okay, you're doing well, lots of stuff like that. So, but when the head of HR and one other lady found out that I had a disability, including gag reflex, spina bifida, and a few other conditions that compounded on top of each other, which is why my doctor has been labeled me disabled, because it can affect my job, right?
Sure.
So that's why I need accommodations. That's what Ontario Disability Supports Program is for, is to make sure that employers know that this particular person has a disability, that they do need accommodations, and that it puts the onus on the employer to make sure they have those things. But
so what was the situation like?
Of it, right?
Yeah. So what was the situation what happened like?
Yeah. So what happened is that with that person, when they found out about it, I was still in training, 2 weeks in training, and they're like, can you do this job? Like, can you do this job? Are you sure you can do this job? Right. And this is after he found out I had a gag reflex.
Jeez.
just from a gag reflex.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just the minor part. There's also, another thing I have is hyperactive immune system,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Which causes drowsiness,
Yeah.
right? And then there's my spina bifida, and another condition that's been compounded with that has me not being able to be at my desk for certain periods of time. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But the thing is like if I had to go over on my break, it would have been like about a minute, 2 minutes, something like that tops.
So yeah, what happened with
But the thing is, he kept on. He said, if you cannot do this job, you're fired. You're gonna be fired. You're gonna be let go. Okay, and make sure of it.
Yeah.
Right. And he watched me very carefully, very, very carefully. And he looked for any opportunity. Now, what happened is though, one day, one of my conditions acted up. Okay. One part about having spina bifida is you don't have any sensation, especially below the waist, in my case. And in certain parts of your body, you lose control.
Sure.
So it's not uncommon to have things like urine infections and stuff like that. So, and then I went to I took a day off to get myself checked. On top of that, I ended up with a sty in my eye. I had urine infection. I had an allergic reaction to the medication for the urine infection.
Oh boy.
And I had a flat tire. I had a really bad week that day.
Right. Bad day. Yeah, bad week.
Really bad day. Really bad week.
Wow.
So I was off for about 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
When I got back, they did a monthly performance review.
Okay.
And they took into account that, so not that they took into account, but all the time that I had missed, they had put that into my averages, so that it looked like I had taken a far lower number of calls that month, but I was not at work those days. I was on sick leave.
Oh, jeez.
Right. I even had doctor slips to cover my butt. They still made me sign papers.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's so to your point, like disabled people need more representation. We need more education about that. We need more awareness about that.
They need more awareness about that.
And I think maybe that's a good point. Like the superheroes, like it would be great to have superheroes that I think there were just some disabled superheroes, like X-Men. There was some, Professor X.
And it's proportional. That's the thing. It's proportional. There's Daredevil. He's blind.
That's right. Yeah. And that's a representation of the real world. Like you said, proportional, 10%, maybe 15% of the society.
Barbara Gordon, the commissioner's daughter, who was Batgirl, after she was shot by the Joker, she was a paraplegic. So she was in a wheelchair.
Yeah. So let's try and wrap this up, Des. What are we saying about comics? Is it a dangerous road?
Well, it's not just that. It's all that they've also made it so that these comics it's just the attribute that makes the comic book character great. It's the certain attribute.
Not the character, not the value.
Not the character. So it's because they're LGBTQ that makes them great. Oh, they're automatically awesome. It's because they're female. They're automatically great. It's because they're a person of color. Automatically great. It doesn't help anything. There are a lot of characters like Black Panther. Black Panther was a great character. He was He was an Afro character. Wonder Woman was a great character, right? And depending on how
there's
portrayed,
countless ones. You're right. There's countless
ones that are there. Green Lantern is gay, right? But he's still Hal Jordan, Green Lantern now somehow is gay. But the thing is, he's still a great character.
Yeah,
that's the thing. He's a great character.
Well, I think so too. Is that they have to focus back on that again.
They had to focus back on character and then storyline, because right now the result is that comic book sales are going down because it's not all about story and about overcoming great odds and stuff like that, or something that would capture the audience's attention. It's about politics. It's about politics.
Well, the good thing about the free market is that the market will speak, and if they start tanking, they'll have a change of heart.
Yeah, and they are tanking. They
Yeah,
are
so
tanking, even
it'll
though
take some
that a lot of the virtue signalers
Yeah.
are saying that it's going up. And here's the thing, manga in Japan is going up in sales big time because there's a variety of genres, there's a variety of stories, and when they say that it's diverse, it's not diverse in terms of ethnicity or orientation. No, it's or sexual or sexual identity or whatever the case is, or gender or whatever. It's diverse in thought. It's diverse
in the
story,
storylines,
in characters.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. I think that's a good place to end as well. Like that's just what it is. I mean, the whole idea of comics was the character, was the story, and to use it for political gain or to use it for it's another victim of this wokeness, right?
Yes.
Of this woke culture, I guess. And it's sad because the people that are claiming to be woke really need to just wake up a little bit more, right? They're not quite there yet, but if they wake up a little more, they realize that, the original place they started from, probably conservative start, maybe originally, right, would have been more of a better ground in this. But like I said, you can still have LGBTQ characters, but make them a character first, and maybe they happen to be gay instead of they're gay and that's why they're amazing. So I don't know. I'm not trying to be a gay voice or anything, but I just whatever it is.
Flipped. That's the problem. It's flipped.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks so much for your time, Des. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for watching. Anything else to wrap this up, Des?
Oh, that's pretty much it. I mean, like I said before, if anyone tells me that this is not propaganda, they're using Superman and the Son of Batman. And those characters have been historically used for propaganda in the past. The moment that you start using these characters for any particular reason, it's propaganda.
Yep. Good point. All right, Des. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
All right. Peace.
Thanks for joining in and watching Centerville Voice. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you are seeing this on YouTube, make sure you click on the notifications bell so you get notified when we upload new videos, which we release every Friday. Sharing and liking our videos helps promote the channel, and sharing episodes like these helps get the word out so that more people will get to see our videos. If you like what you see and/or hear, please consider becoming one of our Patreon supporters. 10% of all Patreon supporter donations we receive goes to our charity of the year. You can visit us at centervillevoice.com to learn more and engage with us on one of our social media pages. Thanks for your support, and we will see you again in our next video or podcast.